Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Conversation and Connection. So this is where we come to meet with fabulous guests who want to share something on a topic that's on their mind. And as you know, I've opened this up. So previously I was talking to people about those key moments, those reconnection moments in their lives. And now I'm interested to kind of let people talk about wider topics. We've talked about purpose. We've talked about meditation and spirituality versus science. I have an idea what myself and the gorgeous Wani are going to talk about today, but we're just going to go with the flow because we've done that before and it always works well. But firstly, let me just say a huge thank you and a welcome to Wani Olatunde, who has agreed to be my guest here today. Lovely to have you here, and tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Ali. It's always great talking to you. So, hi guys, my name is Wani. I'm a wedding and portrait photographer based in Milton Keynes. But what I say I like to do is I love celebrating women. I love photographing women. For me, I think women are incredibly complex, beautiful, amazing creatures that have many layers, and I love exploring those layers with my clients. So that's pretty much what I do.
Fabulous. But you do a lot more than that. So I meet many photographers and brand photographers and wedding photographers in the various hats that I wear. But you have a real passion for helping women kind of embrace that really kind of not kind of having to put on the mask to be glamorous, but to embrace that glamour that's within them. I think that's how I see what you do.
Oh, I love that description. Yes, for me, I don't really believe in Photoshop. I think it's all about taking the woman as she is, the way your loved ones see you, because we don't often see ourselves and we don't see the things people love about us. So it's almost like through our photography, it's almost like a mirror reflecting back to you what everyone loves so much about you and what's so beautiful about you. And it's almost giving someone a new set of eyes to really appreciate themselves. And so I always say that one of my favorite moments from any photo shoot I do is whether I'm shooting an 18-year-old to an 80-year-old, she turns around and goes, "Oh, I'm so hot. Oh, I'm so beautiful. Oh, I could be a model, you know." And it just gives me just a great sense of fulfillment and so much joy that you can make someone feel good about themselves. Because I think when you help someone improve their confidence and their self-esteem, it just feeds into the rest of their lives, their interactions, their relationships, their work. It just gives them the confidence to just maybe do things they never thought they would do. So I see it as just a small piece in just helping people live their best lives is what I love to do. Yeah.
I think that's amazing because I feel really strongly, as my followers know, that it's already inside you. We don't want to talk about, people say that I want to change, and it's like, no, you don't. You don't want to change. You want to really embrace what's already within, and
Exactly.
you can have two people, somebody who is or the same person, and at one point in their life they're feeling really uncomfortable with themselves, and another point they've just got that flow of self-esteem, and they look the same but they look totally different, right?
Yeah, it is. There's just something, you see it in their eyes, it's the way they carry themselves, it's their posture, there's just a certain confidence. And I just love seeing it's just almost like a flower blossoming, and you just get to, it was beautiful before, but now you just get to see it in its full glory. And that's kind of what my clients are. And I really, really love that process. It's such a beautiful process.
I think confidence is super sexy. Confidence is like
extremely sexy.
Yeah. That you can wear. I love that. So let's dive in a bit to the beginning of the process. What are the key things that women are worried about when they first come to you? They're putting themselves in front of the camera. Sometimes that's not their choice. Sometimes they've got to because it's business. So where are they starting from sometimes?
Oh, so like worst case, some people just really hate the camera, and maybe it's because they've never had a picture of themselves they've loved, or sometimes when you feel like you look in your head, you look one way, but then you look in the mirror or you have a picture taken, you're like, oh my God, no, that isn't me. What is happening? So they haven't quite found the photographer that's helped match the image in their head with the way they look outside, and that's just a question of being comfortable with your photographer, really listening to the client and understanding what they want, what their vulnerabilities are, so we always start with a consultation. I need to understand who you are, what do you want, how do you want to be seen. I always ask, how do you want to be photographed? So what's the image you want to show to the world, and then we start exploring different layers. I never like to do just one look. I like to do a range of looks. So sometimes we do boudoir if we're getting a little bit sexy. And boudoir can actually work for two people. One person is super confident, loves to be in front of the camera, wants to show everything. Maybe someone's lost a lot of weight and wants to show and celebrate that. But also people who don't feel confident, who don't think they can do it. And then so it's a drawing out. It takes a little bit longer, but it's a drawing out process. So I really love doing that. But things people worry about, every time I sit down with a client during consultation, I'll be like, what do you love about yourself? And we will be there for a good 10 minutes, and I try not to rush anyone, but they're like, my eyes. So I start with, what does your husband or your partner love about you? That's a little bit easier. But then if I go to, what don't you like about yourself? Then it's like, my eyes are not the same size. My lip is, I've heard also, someone's like, my lip is slightly bigger on one side. And the interesting thing is, I can spend hours staring at someone's picture and I won't see these things, but they have all these little microcosms that they don't love about themselves. And I'm like, we just worry too much. Like,
you know what? I have developed this thing, you're going to laugh, but as I've got older, I read somewhere that like it's quite normal for like one of your eyes to like be a little bit like droop a little bit, and now I'm obsessed with looking in the mirror, and I'm obsessed with this eye. I'm convinced is like doing that. These are the things that get in our head, right?
Even actually I get that, because I'll be looking, I'm like, wait, is one eye going lower than the other? What is happening? But I'm like, I think we just need to learn to embrace imperfection. So for me, the process isn't about making you look perfect. It is about making you perfectly you, and just embracing your imperfections. And okay, one eye slightly droopy. There are ways we can counteract that with our posing and everything, but also you can just embrace that and go, that's just who I am. My smile's a little crooked, but you know what? That's part of me, and I'm okay with that. And your family love that about you. The people who love that, they love that about you. They would miss that if that was gone. So it's really about just embracing all the aspects of who you are. And I think that makes us a lot happier than trying to live up to constantly chasing the perfection in the magazines that the models themselves don't even look like that. We're all just pursuing this image of perfection that no one, absolutely zero people, can live up to. And it's exhausting. I think it's just like, let's just accept that, beauty comes in so many ways and so many forms and shades and shapes and colors and everything. And let's just celebrate that diversity. So that's what I love. That is my passion.
I just, one of my biggest bugbears and especially when I work with teenagers is the whole thing about social media, professional photoshopping, and the image that both men and women, boys and girls, are faced with about how they ought to look. And on the one hand, we feel as though we've made some inroads with that. We're more accepting of a fuller figure, but I feel that we always end up with extremes. So now we have like a beautifully toned woman on one side, that's absolutely gorgeous, and then we have our fuller figure model, who is equally gorgeous, but there's still nothing in between for the person that just kind of gets up and is, I'm not that and I'm not that, I'm just here, I'm in the middle, and it's like, where, they talk about this, working with ordinary, women and a range of women and a diverse range, but it's like, we put this one in as a token for this demographic, and we put this one in as a token for this demographic, and actually all the rest are still beautifully, like, just perfect. And there's just that, it's frustrating.
Teenage girls, they break my heart, because I think, I don't know if it was you, we talked about it, where that from the age of 7, that's when girls start worrying about their weight. And I didn't even realize it was that young. I just assumed it would be the teenage years, And so I'm a mother of boys, but like, especially if you're a mom of girls, I think it's really important to be careful about the things you say to yourself in the mirror, because kids are listening, If they see you constantly like, oh, I can't eat that, I'm on diet. They see you pinching your belly waist, looking unhappy, and if there are any body disorders, it's tough. So I think we need to be really, as parents, we need to be really careful with the way we talk and the things we share, and what we celebrate about girls. Because I think there was a point earlier where we were like, to girls, you're like, oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so just gorgeous. And boys, you're like, oh, you're so smart. Oh, yeah. And so it's taking away that girls are being valued on their looks only, and go, oh, you're amazing, oh, you're so kind, oh, you're so smart, oh, you're so courageous, and showing girls that they're more than just a pretty face. You know, and a pretty face, honestly, when people get carried away with pretty face, I'm like, it's the face you were given, right? It was what you were handed to. So it doesn't say anything about you. That's how you came out of the shop. So really what's more interesting is all the work you've done and what's happening on the inside, and what you're doing to build yourself. So I think as parents and as adults and guardians, we need to move away. We need to start making sure we're being intentional about the way we talk to our girls and the things we focus on with our girls, so they don't feel like there's just one path to be and only one way to be accepted and to be celebrated, you know. And it's tough because you have people with body dysmorphia, and I know we talked about this as well, you know, and this is something I would love to learn more about, is just how you can help people. I saw something just the other day, and this is a woman, she's 55 years old, and she struggled with body dysmorphia since she was 15. So, and with that came bulimia and everything, and I can't imagine that struggle for over 40 years of, you know, just not feeling good enough like you were. And she was so skinny, but they don't see what everyone else sees, you know.
So
and it takes a lot of
mention of that. You said, you know, I see myself in a certain way, then I see myself on camera, and for these people, their view of how they see themselves internally is completely mismatched from how they see themselves externally, is completely mismatched from how they actually are. You know, there's a whole circle that's disconnected.
Because I think we all see ourselves a little differently, but then usually there's some ground in the middle where you can like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's cool. But I think with body dysmorphia, it's so far out, and there's just no convincing. It's not going to take the words of a friend to go, oh, you're beautiful. It doesn't matter how many times, they just don't believe you. You're just lying to me. Stop lying to me. And it's, you know, it makes me very sad. So I mean, I think if we can get to our girls a lot earlier and be careful and start being intentional about the messaging we're doing a lot earlier, I think that would definitely help society as a whole, basically.
One of the topics we also talked about was diversity and equality, in terms of women, in terms of race. And I remember you saying to me, as you know, you have boys, but that it's so important to include our men and our boys in the discussion on equality. And you had some really good, you know, views on how that comes across to you as being a mother of boys.
For me, my favorite thing is my favorite author, Chimamanda Adichie, and she says we should all be feminists. And I know that feminists from the 70s is bird bra, hairy legs, you know, whatever, we hate men. But it's evolved, like we've evolved over the years. And what does a feminist mean? It just means women should have equal opportunities. No one's asking for a leg up. We're just asking to be able to walk through the same door. So for me, you can't have, if you're trying to get into a room, no matter how hard you bang on that door, you can't get in unless someone opens the door for you and offers you a hand. And so it's a joint effort with men and women. You know, you need men who are like, this is not okay. Look around the room. Why are there no women? Why are there no people of color in this room? Because, you know, we've seen over the last, and that's why, you know, social media is a double-edged sword. You know, it has done some amazing positive things, and obviously it has a very destructive side. But people are less this generation, and I kind of love Gen Z because they're like, no nonsense. This is not okay. We're bringing the establishment down kind of generation. And I don't feel like our generation was ever, millennials, we were never brave enough to do that. We're just like, this is not okay, but okay. It's not okay, but it's okay.
I've told you it's not okay. I've said.
Yeah. I said it. You know it, but okay. It's status quo.
Yeah, I did a tweet. I did a few.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, but these are the generation of action. So I just love the idea that, you know, we should all be feminists. And so for my boys, you know, I'm always, because even no matter what you tell your kids, they still interact outside. They still interact in school, you know, and so you have to be at home. They have to be receiving the same messaging. You have to be very consistent. Because I remember my son, maybe when he was 2 or something, came home and went, oh no, so there was a doctor's like, he came home with something like girls can't be doctors or girls can't be something. And I'm like, that did not come from me, you know, so it come from a teacher or something. And so, you know, I'm very careful with my conversations, you know, that anything men can do, women can do. It's not about gender, you know, it's really about who's just best for the job, you know, and there's, I still don't understand things like pay, because we talked about this as well. The fact that women get paid a third less than men. But I can understand that concept in paid employment, but it also happens with entrepreneurs where women are in charge of their own pricing. They're still charging a third less than men, you know?
Right.
So that is now talking to deeper social constructs, psychological barriers that we as women have. So I think we need to do work on ourselves as women, you know, but we also need to do work on our men to make sure that they're creating a welcoming platform, that they're reaching with their hands over the divide, putting their arms through the glass ceiling, whatever metaphor you want to use, and they are pulling women through, you know. And then as women, we need to now look back and also bring, you know, you always have to be paying it forward and bringing people with you, and that's how change slowly happens. But it takes everyone, it takes society to do it. One person and one side can't do it on their own.
And I think so. I mean, there's so many great statements that you've made there. And, you know, one thing I notice as well is that as women, we need to be kinder to women. So we talk a lot about women supporting women, and I've seen it in action, and, you know, and it's amazing. But there are these, it's like you said about the money, there are these kind of deep rooted societal beliefs that I think cause this unconscious bias. So immediately a woman puts herself forward, the descriptors that are used and by other women, you know, they come forward. We immediately focus on the visual, the external. We focus on whether she's being pushy. We focus on how warm or cold she is. We don't describe men as warm or cold, you know, but we describe that, and the magazines, you know. So we hold ourselves back by buying these magazines that are written for women by women, okay, where we are just being unkind to ourselves as a species. But it's this kind of a lot of that, I know, is not intentional, but there is this still a lot that's generational, that's societal, that's unconscious, isn't it? And how do we change that? I'm not asking you to answer that. Like, change that for me, Wani.
Let's change the world, Ali. Let's change the world. You know, but like you said, you know, I think first thing, and what I love is about the new generations that they're starting to pick up, and they're starting to point out these unconscious biases we have as women, as people of color, as white people, you know, whatever the group is, we're starting to go, oh, wait, why do we think like that? Why do we say that's okay? Where does this come from? You know, it's like that story of the man whose mom always cut the turkey in half and put it in the oven, and for years he was like, why do you do this? She's like, my mom did that, my mom. And it went, and they traced it back to where it started, and it just turned out that the first woman who did it didn't have a big enough oven to put the whole turkey in, and it was just something that was handed down. So I think is this now we just need to start questioning everything. You know, if there's a viewpoint we have, why do we think like this? Why is that okay? Why? And like you said, the language we use about women, we would never use about men. Like if you see politics is the easiest thing. A male candidate, a female candidate, you know, they can't be, she has to be a Mrs., you know, she has to be soft, she has to be endearing, she can't be too pushy, she can't be, you know, all the traits that we like in male candidates, we don't like it in a female candidate, you know.
And I don't want to go down that the US political, but when we look at the Clinton and Trump race, you know, let's go back to that one. Lots of people, you know, you thought, you know, they'd had their first person of color as president. It's amazing, you know, they're moving forward. Here's a female candidate, you know, she had good background, good political background, you know, whatever your views were on that, you know, she was a solid candidate in many ways. And the reason that many women didn't vote for her was they thought she was harsh as a woman, you know, they didn't like her as a woman, and they voted for somebody else.
I mean,
with characteristics that if that was a female candidate, they would have been in uproar about, you know, those kind of behaviors. And
I think it's just blatantly unfair, and I feel empathy for people who are in those positions, because it's not just in politics, in the boardroom, whatever, you know, there's always this fine line women have to walk where they want to be their own person, and they want to, so some people go alpha, okay, I have to be like a man, so alpha men, I don't care if anyone likes me, you know, and they're viewed as bossy or bitchy or whatever. And other people are like, oh, bend over backwards to not make any waves, you know. And there's always this fine line women find they have to walk to kind of like please everyone and appease everyone, and it's as much appease the women as is to appease the men. So I think, like you said, we just need to do the work ourselves to say, why are we saying that about her? Would we say that if she was a man? You know, and start asking yourself these questions. Like, would I say this if this was a different person of a different race, gender, whatever? And start to like challenge the paradigms that we've carried for so long. Because like you said, it's all these unconscious biases. You know, sometimes we don't even know we're doing it until it's pointed out to us. And I just love that we're having those conversations now where we can be like, oh yeah, actually, because I know I do that as well. I'm like, oh wait, I wouldn't say that if it was this person. I'm like, okay, let's go back and fix that, you know. So
yeah, we all judge. Can I just say, hands up, you know, I'm a judger, right? You know, and I'm as guilty as the next one. That, you know, there are times when I'm, you know, and I'll say, oh, and I think, oh my goodness, why did you, like, where did that come from? But the judgment is like, out. You know?
Exactly. And then you have to like go the other way to make up for it. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I need some universe points now because I'm a terrible person. So we could, as always, every time we talk, I just think we could chat for ages. And unfortunately, people's attention spans kind of drift on YouTube. So our time is nearly up. But I want to bring this back to the work that you do with all the wonderful things. If you had a couple of really good tips for women out there in terms of how they see themselves and just letting that inner person shine, what would you want to leave them with?
So I really like journaling. You know, I really like making a list of, well, first you can do things you like about yourself, because that list takes time to and I always suggest pick things that don't matter about your weight. So that's for me, because I'm someone who goes both ends of the scale. Like I am on and off all the time. But the things I really love about myself is like my eyes, my smile, you know, things that don't change irrespective. It's kind of the way like I always buy handbags, because it doesn't matter what size I am, you know, a handbag is going to be always a fabulous, you know. So I think try and focus on the things that really connect you to people. And you know what, why don't you go and ask people around you? Like if you don't know where to start, ask people you trust, ask your friends, like your best friend, your mom, your dad, you know, because I had to do an exercise once for a course, and I had to ask 3 words to describe me. And I just put it on Facebook, and the words that came back, even I just saw them the other day, they still make me smile. And you'll be surprised by what people love about you and what draw people to you, your energy, you know, your kindness, you know, there's so many things. So if you're feeling like you're just not sure, then just ask, you know. And it's not, you can ask a couple of people. You don't have to put it out on Facebook if you feel like it's a little bit embarrassing or anything. So, and definitely do that. And then also start to challenge the conceptions you have of yourself. So if you're like, oh, I'm just ugly, then why do you think you're ugly? And if you try and just trace it back, and a lot of times the voice, the inner critic, is a liar. Basically, is what we can call it. It is mean and it's vicious. And if you wouldn't talk to your best friend like that, then try not to talk to yourself like that. You know, just be more conscious of it, and so you can counteract with, well, that's not true. Well, that's not true. And this is what is true about me. So it takes a lot of work, but you know, it's worth it. I think it's definitely worth the journey.
So it's been wonderful as always to talk to you. We just dive into some great topics. And if you enjoyed this episode and you want to find out more about what Wani does, or you want to go and have a beautiful session and get gorgeously photographed, then all of the links are below this episode. So please go and explore that. If you have a story or a topic that you're passionate about that you think fits in with what we talk about here, then drop me a note, because I'm always looking to meet new people. We are all about connecting and reconnecting here. So I'd love to hear from you. And final thing, do not forget to subscribe and to like and share. The more people that we get subscribed to our channel, the more we can spread the word on these topics, and the more we can reach and find new people to come and chat to us, which is what we are all about. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Wani, thank you again so much for giving your time and being with us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Ali.
And I wish everybody wonderful, bright blessings. Take care. We'll see you next time on Connection and Conversation.